I got one here from Jason Quirk. Hey guys, new listener here. My wife is halfway through her pregnancy with her first child, a baby boy. Congratulations to you both.
Mm-hmm.
And I just started listening to For the Dads a few weeks ago. It has quickly become my favorite podcast, and I really appreciate what you're doing and the honesty you guys bring to conversations. I had a question that I think you'd have valuable insight on. I'm a retired professional boxer, and boxing was a huge part of my life for almost 20 years.
Hey, yo.
Like a lot of former athletes, I always envisioned myself teaching my son to box one day, hoping he might follow in my footsteps. Boxing taught me confidence, discipline, and how to enjoy the suck. It showed me that no matter what life throws at you, you can push through adversity and come out better on the other side. Now that I'm almost 37 and becoming a father, I find myself wrestling with something I never really questioned before, whether the lessons and accomplishments I gained from boxing outweigh the long-term risks, especially concussions. Will, as a former professional athlete, and Sherman, as a new dad, how do you guys feel about your kids playing contact sports? How do I balance wanting my son to be tough, confident, and resilient, able to handle adversity, while also wanting to protect them and keep them safe? I'd really, really appreciate hearing your thoughts. Thanks again for the show and everything you guys do. Jason, thank you for writing in, my friend. That's a great question.
Great question. One that I feel like you are more like tailored to answer, but I'll chime in.
Man, honestly, like it hasn't, since I have two daughters. It was a question I guess I thought about maybe before fatherhood. If I were to have a son, like Charles and I, the conversations are, about number 3, pouring in and trying to get a third. And again, I don't have a son, so it hasn't been something that I sit there and have wrestled with the way it seems like Jason is doing. But it's a great question. Come playing a physical sport, the way football's kind of trended with concussions and, when you should play tackle football and should you hold your son out until a certain age? Man, I think for me, all the stuff that he sits there and talks about where he says confidence, discipline, how to enjoy the suck, there is no substitute for learning those lessons, in my opinion. Oh my God, I thought somebody was ripping ass when that came.
That was
I don't know
loud.
if anybody heard that in the background.
That was loud.
Just muffler came by, and I thought Chef was back there ripping a fart in the middle of this answer. I think for me, knowing what football gave to me and what football taught me, I would very much be aware and have empathy, I guess, on the physicality at a younger age. Like if my kid wasn't tough, I just know certain things will come through, whether it's the right teachings, having the right conversations with him, seeing him grow in the sport of football. But if this was a dude who watched football with me growing up and wanted to play football, I might be methodical about when he would start tackle football.
Yeah.
But if he wanted to play a sport that I loved and I know has given me so much throughout my life, and even in the back end where I think about, the brain damage, the stuff that is now coming out about brain damage, and seeing guys age and seeing, guys either spiral or go downhill. And those are things that I worry about. But I also think to myself, like, I would not, if I could go back in time and do it over again, I would do absolutely nothing differently. Yeah. With the way my mom and dad kind of raised me, with the way I learned the lessons through physical sports and through sports and football in particular, because it's such a team game. Like my brother Cody, he was a massive wrestler. I grew up wrestling until, I stopped wrestling like in high school. But there's just lessons that there is no substitute for that you get through sports, through competition, through you're the man in the arena. Yeah. Whether you're on a team sport or an individual sport, like you win and lose as a team. And then if you're in an individual sport, it's all on you. Yeah. So when you go out there, put the ankle bracelet on, whatever it is, the colored trunks, the gloves you got, the result will always be what you sit there and reflect on. And there's so many lessons that come in sport and in competition that I wouldn't shy away from my kids playing sports. Like if I had a boy, I wouldn't shy away from him playing football or tackle football. I might think about when he would start or how long he might play flag. But again, there is just absolutely no substitute for what you learn through sports. I think sports, and again, I'm biased, but I think sports is the best teacher for life because you're around so many different, you're around a melting pot of attitudes, of cultures, of just people that are different than you, People that have different skill sets, sizes, everything, speed. And you learn so many valuable lessons within the game.
Yeah.
So him wrestling with the idea of boxing is a striking sport. There's, I feel like, a lot more that you see the residual effects of something like boxing.
For sure.
To where you can still implement your kid in boxing.
Yeah.
But maybe there's a conversation where we'll work it to this point. Maybe when you become of age and you decide if this is the route you want to go on your own, you can do it on your own. You're not necessarily pushing that on them.
Yeah.
But as far as sparring, as far as training, as far as like, getting into things with headgear and everything like that, I don't know enough about boxing.
And all amateur, to your exact point, all amateur boxing is going to have headgear. And it's going to have very, very high ounce gloves. Like, so the amateur stuff, I feel like there are a lot of safety precautions built in.
I would ask you, as someone who's played all levels of football, do you think that the risk to kids, and I know we're not talking to any scientists, but a lot of kids won't make it past high school. That's just the nature of like the game. Do you think that there's any risk up until high school? Like, of course there's risk anytime you're playing a contact sport, but isn't that like the head injury stuff a lot more prevalent when you start making it to these really high levels of football where you're playing for a long, long period of time? If there's anything to that, have you noticed like when you played, like going from high school?
Oh, it's a way more violent game at each stage for sure. But I want to say there's research that comes out about even high school football players.
That's what I was just more curious than trying to make.
And
a
even,
are you asking the
from a risk standpoint, someone who's played at every level, like would you worry about it all? Like your kid playing up until, let's say they only played until high school. I'm sure if you had a son, he would be a beast of an athlete and make it to the highest level, just like his dad. But let's say if there's a world where he only plays the high school, would you be beyond the the worry of a freak accident or something, that very small chance happens? Would you be really concerned?
Concerned with him playing if he only played high school football?
Let's just say he made it up to high school and didn't go because just from what I've seen, I figure it's a lot more like the risk goes a lot higher when you start making college and then
you're playing beyond high school. Yeah, for sure. Because it gets a lot more. I mean, it's more. The more you get to the NFL, the more you're closer to being a grown man, and the speed and strength and size at each level obviously gets bigger. I think if I'm hearing your question, he's just making it like, is there a risk factor when he's playing high school football?
Yeah, would you be concerned at all outside of the one-off crazy incident like that you pray you never see in that sport, but like just in general,
freak accidents happen all the time.
Yeah.
I think no matter what, if you're playing a physical game like football, like hockey, any physical sport, there's always freak accident situations that happen. That's like thinking of that situation happening. That wouldn't lead my decision making, especially if my son loved the sport or if he wanted to play. Like I wouldn't be the dad that's pushing football on him. I would hope to mold that he might enjoy football and see it kind of the way I do and the fun that it always brought me playing in Little League and everything else. But no, it wouldn't lead my decision making. Just because, again, I grew up in it.
Yeah.
Like it's a sport that I love dearly, and I think the world of football.
I asked that to ask, like, maybe if there's parents out there who are thinking about that, or they never played, or their kid wants to play and they're worried about serious head injury. As someone who's played the sport at all levels, like that's something that maybe you could attest to, where it's like I would.
Yeah, I don't think there's a wrong way to think about it. Like if somebody out of the fear or the risk that comes with football and they keep their kid out, I think there's no right way to go about it. I think that's their own prerogative and the own decisions that they make. I'm not saying they're wrong for thinking that way. Some take that small risk chance and think of the worst case scenario, and then they just think like, hey, it's not, this wouldn't be worth it. I don't want this happening.
Yeah.
And again, it's just not, I just, my world and my view of it is different, which is okay.
Well, and like I think the main takeaway that you said is the pros outweigh the cons, and the lessons that they will learn from any team sport. And if we're just talking freak accidents and injuries, that happens in any sport. I had a kid break like
You get a freak accident driving the car.
a car. Yes. There was a kid on our team that broke like 15 bones in his face in a soccer game. And like crazy shit happens. All the stuff that you learn from playing team sports or from Pee-wee level to middle school to whatever, I couldn't agree more. Some of my favorite memories and some of my best life lessons come from the sports that I grew up playing. So
you look back and you're happy whenever, when my parents made me wrestle in high school, my junior year.
Yes.
And just, again, some of the lessons that you learn in sports. Like, I wanted to be good at football. I wanted to do what it takes to make it to each next level. When I was in high school, I wanted to be the kid that, came out of 8th grade. When I was a freshman, I wanted to play varsity, and I wanted to play at that level. So I would ask questions, or I would learn from coaches or the people around me on what it took. And some of those things, like, you don't want to do. It's like the sacrifice you make when you're waking up early in the morning in summertime and the boys are staying up late and hanging out and playing video games. Sometimes you partake in it, but you're waking up at 6 a.m. the next day to go into your summer workouts with football, and you're around the crew, you're around influence, you're around people who are better than you.
Or people that want to make you better.
Yeah, people that want to make you better.
Yeah.
And you're stacking days, and you learn over time. Like, Nick Saban I feel like he's the one who's coined the term, it takes what it takes.
Yeah.
And you just learn those fundamental values as you get older. It's like when I was in high school, first making the switch from white bread to wheat bread. But either way, then you learn about how to read a label. And if it's enriched bleached flour, you're like, oh, it's not even the fact of going white bread and wheat bread. I can't have the enriched bleached flour.
That's not
then
good
you learn
bread.
That's not good bread. And then you learn that all these other breads out there, they're not even that good for you. It's sourdough bread. Oh, the gluten-free bread. You continue to learn stuff throughout time that you're curious about, because you want to dial in everything through discipline and work ethic, and what's the 1% better that I can get this year. And I feel like those are things that sports teach you when you want to be good at sports.
Couldn't agree more. Any team mentality type activity, whether it's sports, scholastic team, like debate or theater or whatever, like when you're in a team environment, I think that's some of the best life lessons come out of that. So anything that's pro that, I'm pro that.
Yeah.
That's my stance.
It's actually, and Jason, appreciate the email and that question. It's going to be a question now that I think about and rack through my brain for probably the next week or so. I can always come back with a better answer, because I know a lot of parents think about that stuff.
Yeah, absolutely.
It's always a conversation like, hey, if you had a son, like, when would you allow him to play tackle football? And just in my brain, I'm just like, hey, as soon as he can play tackle football. The older I get, the more I think about it now that I have kids, and now that I'm getting older and getting more, I guess, rational, or thinking about those risks and things that come with it a little bit more. But no matter what, I just always default to, there is no substitute for what sports can teach you.
Yeah.
For life, for social skills, for discipline, hard work, just what it takes.
Yeah.
Hey, you want to make that team? This is what it's going to take.
Yeah.
You're not as good as the other kids. Here are the things that you're going to have to work on. There's a different wind that's going at that kid's sail. The wind might not blow as hard because genetically he's more gifted than you. That's okay.
Yeah.
But if you want to make the team, if you want to start on varsity, if you want to make the JV team, you want to make whatever it is, there's so many stories that you're able to pull, whether it's the Michael Jordan when he didn't make his basketball team, or you throwing a Rocky Balboa movie.
Oh, Rocky.
Throwing a Rocky Balboa. There's just so much good storytelling and so many life lessons that you can learn just by accepting whatever your reality is and figuring out, this is the way I'm going to have to work if I want to get to X, if I want to get to this point in life.
Yeah.
And not worrying about the comparables and everything else. And it helps you narrow your focus and hone in on things. And then whether you get there, you fail, you hit the result or the goal that you wanted, or you didn't, everything you learned fundamentally along the way, you're going to have to fall back on those fundamentals to get whatever the next thing is. Whenever you do come up short and fail, or whenever you do maximize or say hit your goal, it's always going to be a new goal that you try and attain to. And then you're going to go off the lessons you learned from, hey, coach was right, mom and dad were right, this influence in my life was right. Man, I'm really glad I skipped this and chose to do this instead. Now that I look back, I'm very grateful and appreciative for the sacrifices I made to get to this point. If I go back and change something a little bit different in this point in time, I now know that valuable lesson on the next kid that I'm talking to and can now give that feedback to him on, hey, learn from me, be better than me. So what parents think when they're coming up with their kids, they want them to be better versions of themselves.
Yeah.
And so they always pull from these experiences or examples from where they fell in life or where they didn't do well in life, or maybe they had success in life and you got to figure out some way to where you don't come off as a know-it-all parent, but find a way to communicate with your kid. Like they might be able to retain this the same way I do. Or you're going into parent, hey, do I think I'm going to be a good dad? Because, man, I had a shit household growing up. And no disrespect to my mom and dad out there or my dad, whoever raised me. Just, who knows if I have the tools necessary to be a successful parent or be a parent that I would want to be in life. Well, step one, you know what you don't want to be, which is a great starting point.
Yeah.
So you'll be able to pull from all of those lessons. And then when the time comes, you'll be able to, again, teach downward, teach the next generation, teach the next group. Pick everybody's brain around you who does have parents, and you might be in a sticky spot. Why we have For the Dads? You sit there and learn lessons, and you hear stories, and you hear everybody have and share their experiences of parenthood, because we all know it's sucky a lot of the times, but there's so many highs that come from it that when you look back on, you're like, man, I'm glad I embraced the suck in this moment, like hearing Clump on that voicemail. Or you might have handled that a lot differently, and you look back on, you're like, man, I should have done a much better job here. I should have had a much better attitude when my wife was hounding me about becoming old Willie One Shelf in that moment.
Yeah.
There's your lesson of the week.
There's your lesson.
There's the lesson.
Hey, there's the lesson. I just retweet everything that you said. I mean, I'm in full agreement, dude. Huge fan of sports, huge fan of self-improvement, huge fan of challenging yourself. I think the pros outweigh the cons.
Yeah.
Good
sewed.
Sue me. Good sewed.
Sue us.
I had a life lesson.
Good, you hit it.
Wait, really?
Yeah,
I was going to say I have a quote too. I can just do the quote.
Get the quote.
Okay.
Get the quote. Life's a cliche, man.
Life's a cliche.
You're stuck somewhere, go find a quote or a cliche or a lesson. I promise you there's stuff out there.
Life's a garden. Dig it.
Dig it.
Joe Dirt. My quote is, pain is nothing compared to what it feels like to quit. You know who said that?
Give me a hint.
We were talking about him the other day.
Ben Franklin.
No, we're talking about him on the bus.
Dan Gable.
Dan Gable.
Dan Gable.
That one comes from Dan Gable. Oh, God.
I was telling Sherman too. Do you know who Dan Gable is? Do you know who Dan Gable is? This generation and this next generation is lost, man. You don't know who Dan Gable is.
Eric's like 4 years younger.
Do what?
Eric's like,
I didn't wrestle.
He missed the cut.
I didn't wrestle.
He missed the cut. He doesn't know who Dan Gable is. Famous Iowa Hawkeye head coach. Wrestled at Iowa State.